In the 105th minute of a match already full of drama, Joško Gvardiol slid the ball into the net, and Croatia believed they had done something extraordinary. The stadium erupted. Croatian players sprinted toward the corner flag. Fans, who had been holding their breath for nearly 2 hours, finally exhaled. And then the flag went up. And then came the wait. And then came a decision that left millions of football fans around the world genuinely unable to believe what they were seeing. What was disallowed in Atlanta on Thursday night was not simply a goal, it was a moment that forced an entire sport to confront an uncomfortable truth about where the game is heading. Because the reason this goal was taken away was not a human eye. It was not a camera angle. It was not a VAR official studying slow-motion footage from 12 different positions. It was a microchip, embedded inside the match ball, measuring the most invisible contact in World Cup history. This is the story of the goal that technology erased, and the question it has left football unable to answer. To understand how we arrived here, you have to understand the match that led to this extraordinary moment. Portugal against Croatia, a round of 32 clash carrying the weight of two nations with deep emotional connections to World Cup football at its finest. Portugal, still led at 40 years of age by Cristiano Ronaldo, had taken the lead through a penalty that itself carried history. For a man who had played in 5 World Cups, who had carried the hopes of an entire country across 2 decades, it was his first ever goal in a knockout match at the tournament, a moment to be savored. But Croatia, as they have shown repeatedly across recent major tournaments, do not surrender easily. What followed was a match of relentless tension. Portugal led 1-0. Croatia pressed, probed, and refused to accept that their World Cup journey was ending here. And then, with the match deep into stoppage time, the moment arrived that would define the entire night. A cross was swung in from Ivan Perisic. The ball entered a crowded penalty area. Bodies rose. The ball struck something, or appeared to, before falling to Mario Pasalic, who touched it into the path of Gvardiol. The slide, the finish, the net moving, the eruption. Croatia had done it, or so it seemed. Referee Espen Eskås paused, the VAR review began, and for several minutes the football world waited in a state of complete uncertainty. At first glance, reviewing the footage frame by frame, it appeared that the ball had simply deflected off Portugal defender Renato Veiga, which, under the laws of the game, would have kept Pasalic onside and allowed the goal to stand. The eye could see nothing more complex than that. The cameras could find no definitive evidence, and for a few moments it seemed possible that Croatia might survive. But then came the information that changed everything. This World Cup uses a match ball unlike any seen on the sport's biggest stage. The Adidas Prianda, the official ball of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, contains a microchip embedded inside one of its 4 panels, a sensor, a piece of technology so precise it can detect the force, speed, and direction of every single contact made with the ball, down to the smallest fraction of measurement imaginable. And that chip had recorded something the human eye simply could not see. In the moments before the ball reached Veiga and then Pasalic, Croatia's Igor Matanovic had jumped for the ball in the area. To every camera, to every broadcaster, to every fan watching live and on television around the world, it appeared that Matanovic had missed. His header appeared to make no contact whatsoever. The ball seemed to pass him entirely. But the sensor said otherwise. The sensor detected a touch, the tiniest of deflections, confirmed by the connected ball technology that FIFA had specifically introduced for this tournament to assist in precisely these situations. And in the instant that sensor registered contact from Matanovic, the entire calculation of the offside decision changed. At the moment Matanovic made that invisible touch, Pasalic was in an offside position, not by much, but enough. And when a player in an offside position subsequently receives the ball, whether through a deflection or a further touch, the goal cannot stand.
But the mathematics of the decision were not yet complete, because the ball had also made contact with Veiga, the Portuguese defender, on its way through to Pasalic. And if that contact was considered intentional, a deliberate play on the ball by a defending player, it would have reset the offside calculation entirely. Pasalic would have been onside, the goal would have stood. Referee Escos walked to the monitor precisely to answer that question. He studied the footage of Veiga's involvement, and his conclusion was clear. Veiga had not attempted to play the ball deliberately. His movement had been an attempt to duck away from it, not to control it. Under the laws of the game, an unintentional deflection by a defending player does not reset the offside line, and so the goal was disallowed. Croatia, 2 steps away from extra time, were out. The reaction that followed was unlike almost anything seen at this World Cup so far. On social media, within minutes, the footage of Matanovic's invisible touch had become one of the most shared clips of the entire tournament. Frame by frame, slow motion, enhanced, reversed, and the conclusion that millions of fans across the world kept arriving at was always the same. He did not touch it. The ball passed him. There was nothing there. And yet the technology said otherwise. Former Premier League referee Mark Clattenburg, watching from the broadcast booth, acknowledged immediately what was happening. He pointed to the chip in the ball. He explained that the sensor would detect contact that no camera in the stadium could confirm visually. And he suggested that once the data set entered the VAR review, there was virtually no room to argue against it. His position was clear. The technology had spoken. And in this tournament, the technology is the final word. But that is precisely where the debate becomes impossible to resolve cleanly, because the football world is being asked to trust a piece of technology it cannot see, cannot verify in real time, and cannot challenge in any meaningful way. Fans watching the match watched Matanovic jump for the ball and appear to miss it completely. They watched the decision unfold not on the basis of what their eyes could confirm, but on the basis of data produced by a chip embedded in an object moving at speed through a crowded penalty area. Is that progress, or is it a new kind of problem? The answer depends entirely on what you believe football should look like in the modern age. For those who trust the technology, this decision was correct. The sensor was calibrated precisely for moments exactly like this one. It confirmed contact that was real, even if invisible. And in a sport where the margin between a legitimate goal and an offside position can come down to millimeters, having a technology capable of detecting those millimeters accurately is an enormous step forward. For those who are less certain, the discomfort is harder to dismiss. Football has always been a sport experienced through the senses, through what is seen, felt, and shared between the people in the stadium and those watching at home. When the decisive evidence in a match of this magnitude exists only inside a chip and cannot be shown, replayed, or demonstrated in a form that any human being watching can independently verify, something has shifted in the relationship between the game and the people who love it. The irony of this particular moment is not lost on those who follow football closely. Croatia, a nation that has spent recent years producing some of the most extraordinary World Cup moments in modern history, find themselves eliminated by the most invisible touch ever recorded on football's biggest stage. Gvardiol's goal, the finish that celebrated a nation, was taken away not by a flag, not by a camera, not by a referee's judgment, but by a piece of hardware that transmitted data in real time from inside a moving ball. Football has never produced a moment quite like this before, and perhaps that is both the most fascinating and most unsettling aspect of where this tournament now stands. The technology that FIFA introduced to remove controversy has produced instead a new category of controversy that it was never designed to address. Not the controversy of wrong decisions, but the controversy of correct decisions that cannot be proven to a watching world in any form it can fully understand or accept. Croatia will not return to this tournament. Their journey ends here, in the most painful, most bewildering fashion the sport has yet produced with its new tools. Portugal move forward, into the round of 16, into a tournament that may yet produce the moment Ronaldo has waited a lifetime to experience at a World Cup. And the football world moves with them, carrying a question that will not disappear no matter how many matches are played, no matter how many goals are scored or disallowed in the weeks ahead. When the technology inside the ball becomes the most important player on the pitch, is that still the football that captured the hearts of generations? Or is it something new, something different, something that requires an entirely new kind of trust from the billions of fans who have given this sport everything they have? There are no easy answers. There is only the game, the technology, and the silence that fell over an entire nation in the 105th minute of a World Cup match in Atlanta. The road to the 2026 World Cup final has already produced moments that will be remembered for decades, but this one may be remembered longest of all, not for the goal, but for the touch nobody saw.